Welcome to In the Zone with Chris Zander, where we talk lifestyle, entrepreneurship, self-care, and much more. So go grab a drink or a snack and come on back because it is now time to get in the zone. My guest today is a producer, TV personality who has graced us with her presence for over 20 years on Nashville's top-rated talk show, Talk of the Town, of News Channel 5. Let's welcome our very own Tuwanda Coleman Shaw. How are you doing, Tuwanda?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. First, I got to give you a compliment.
Okay.
You look amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I guess for an older lady about to retire, I look okay.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so we'll start here.
Okay.
Cadiz, Kentucky.
Yes. Cadiz, Kentucky, born and raised, population 1,500. Very, very small town. But, grew up watching all the Nashville stations because that was the closest television market to us in small town Cadiz, Kentucky. And if people are familiar with maybe Hopkinsville, Fort Campbell, Cadiz sort of sits right on the boundaries of both of them.
Yeah.
And so that's where I grew up and went to school there.
I'm just curious to know, because I listened and read where you had a high school teacher who was very influential in your decision to become a TV personality. Beforehand, you wanted to be a teacher, right?
Yes. And it's so interesting. I think we all have a teacher who has in some way influenced our lives. But I was on the speech and debate team, and we called it the forensics team. So I was on speech and she was also my English teacher. I was very, very shy, believe it or not, in high school. And her name was Mrs. Rutherford. She thought I should join the speech team. So I did, and I just got so into it. I was doing poetry interpretation, dramatic interpretation, and just winning at competitions every weekend. So somewhere along the way, one day she asked me, "Have you seen Channel 5? They've got a new weekend anchor named Oprah Winfrey on there. Have you seen her?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've seen her." And she said, "I think you could be the next Oprah Winfrey." And bingo, the seed was planted.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, the African-American professional women I had seen were teachers and nurses.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize I had an option of being anything else, really. But then I was like, yes, I've seen Oprah Winfrey. And I thought, this seems so out of reach for me, growing up in small town Cadiz. But it did give me an opportunity to sort of soul search and think, I do love to write. I do want to be a presenter in some way. And I started watching Oprah and started telling everybody I wanted to be the next Oprah Winfrey, like Miss Rutherford said I could be. And in my yearbook, a lot of my classmates wrote, "To the next Oprah Winfrey."
Yes.
Of course, I'm not anywhere near Oprah Winfrey, but that was the spark I needed to go to college, know exactly what I wanted to be, got a scholarship to Western Kentucky.
Yes.
And knew when going in, okay, I'm going to be a television reporter like Oprah Winfrey. And that all started with Mrs. Rutherford, because prior to that, I would have never thought that was a possibility or an option for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that, like you said, that's why it's important to have like those teachers that see you.
Exactly. She saw something in me, I think, that I didn't see in myself, because although she knew I was shy, she still really, really encouraged me to become, get on the speech team and to sort of overcome that shyness by standing up in front of people, speaking in front of people. And then I realized I loved it.
Yeah.
And I dropped some of that shyness, and I was relatively popular, in high school with my friends and people that I knew, but I would still get nervous standing up in front of class.
Yes.
You know how that is. But when I started doing it all the time and getting this great response and winning competitions, that really, really gave me confidence. I don't know if they still have speech forensics teams in high schools, but I know Western, where I graduated, they still have just a powerhouse forensics team that I still keep up with from time to time. And they go all over to other universities competing and winning all these competitions. But it's basically taking a piece of poetry or a piece of dramatic monologue from a book and you interpret it. And you're competing with other schools. And you have your different categories, and you have semifinals and you have finals. And I was winning, and I
Yeah.
won the state championship my senior year in high school.
That's so
I know
awesome.
I won in poetry interpretation, and I went on to the national level and won third place there.
Yeah.
So
So it was almost like this was destined to be.
I think it was. I think everything does happen for a reason. And there's nothing wrong with being a teacher. I love teachers. I would have been fine, I think, as a teacher. But that really did expand my sort of mind into thinking that there were other possibilities, that I had other options if I wanted to do that sort of thing. And so I just really set my goal. I want to work at News Channel 5. I want to meet Oprah Winfrey. I was like, and I want to work with Chris Clark. All of those things happened, and they all happened more than once.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we got to talk about this.
Okay.
Because you mentioned WKU.
Yes.
That's where you put the boots on and you started kicking the ground and you just made it happen.
I did.
What was WKU like? What was that program like for you? What was your experience like? Also, you are an AKA.
I am.
Between
Sorority girl.
broadcasts, being an AKA, you were busy.
I was very busy. And I was also on the speech and debate team there because that was part of what my scholarship was in, to actually be on the speech and debate team. College was some of the best years of my life. And I tell anyone that when you go to college, savor every moment of that. I did not have a lot of responsibility other than to go to class, to do good in school, because that's how I was going to keep my scholarship. And I made some of the best friends of my life. I did join a sorority, and some of those ladies are my best friends to this day. We have an email text that we're constantly on, even though we're all over the country. But it also helped me to mature as well. Going off to college, you really still you think you're already grown, but you're not. I was a little country girl with, people from New York, people from Chicago.
Yeah.
I learned so much from other people. I was so naive about so many things, but I learned so much from other people, and being around them and hearing their experiences, it really helped me to mature. And so college was some of the best days of my life. Being in a sorority, I loved every minute of that, because I do like giving back to the community. And it was all about community service. And a lot of people think, sororities, just partying, cliques and that sort of thing. And I don't say that doesn't happen in some instances. But we were all about community service. We are a sisterhood, but we're also all about service. And so that helped me to learn that you got to give back.
That's true.
You've got to give back to the community. If, we all considered ourselves exceptional women. This was going to make us truly be exceptional women. If you can be well-rounded enough to be in school or get a college degree, still have time to be in organizations and go out and serve the community. It just makes you a more well-rounded person, and also to just appreciate what you have in your life versus what some other people have.
That's true.
So I loved being a hilltopper at WKU in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I have 2 older sisters who also went to Western. And then I have a younger brother. So there's 4 out of 7 of us kids.
Okay, yes.
Who went to Western Kentucky. It's a great school.
Gotcha. So you guys are now... I'll say the legends, people know about you guys.
People do know about us. And even in our hometown of Cadiz, not a lot of people necessarily pursue education after high school when I was growing up in the 70s. But I had older siblings who were role models for me.
Absolutely.
My 2 oldest brothers went into the Air Force the day after they graduated from high school. They were determined, this is a small town. We love it here, but there's no opportunity for us here.
Right.
They joined the Air Force and was gone the day after graduation. And then I have another sister who was sort of like the inspiration for us younger ones, who was like, I want to be a nurse. She knew this from the moment she was 14 or 15. She was a 16-year-old candy striper at Jenny Stewart Hospital in Hopkinsville. She knew all along she wanted to be a nurse. She got great. We all did really good in school, and she was able to get a scholarship to Western and to go to the nursing school. And the stories that she would come back and tell us, the pink and green jumpsuits with the bell bottoms, I thought, this is so cool, because she was also an AKA.
Got you. So you were like, I have to do
I
this.
have got to go to Western Kentucky, and I've got to be an AKA like my sister Mary. So she was a great role model for us younger four, or younger three after her. And so that was my inspiration for sure going to college, because, growing up in 1977, Cadiz, Kentucky, my parents did not have money to send us to college. We knew the only way we were going to get to go to college was either scholarships or grants.
Yeah.
And so my sister, having done that, was able to teach us, do good in school and you can get scholarships. And this is how you go about getting federal grants, because we didn't really know any of that.
Yeah.
And so that really helped us to go ahead and start applying and those sort of things. And then that's how we were able to go to college free, without having to spend a dime.
Yeah.
I did have to go one extra semester now, because a class that I was supposed to take as far as for my major was not offered the last semester of school. I had to come back in the fall for a semester to take a class. And so I did have to get like a loan for that. But other than that, I went to school, scot-free with scholarships.
Yeah.
It was great.
And I love that. And I think it's so cool, because right after you graduated, your first job, you landed at News Channel 5. You were a camera woman.
Yes, I was. Yes, exactly. The goal, of course, was to always work at News Channel 5. But 2 weeks before graduation, my degree is in broadcast journalism with an emphasis in news reporting. 2 weeks before graduation, I go to my advisor in tears and I say, I don't think I want to be a reporter.
Whoa.
I thought, I don't think I have what it takes to be a hard news reporter, because I felt like I'm so sensitive. And I heard Oprah say the same thing, and I've got some great Oprah stories from the people who used to work with her, but I felt so and I was panicked. My advisor knew someone at Channel 5, and he said, oh my goodness, well, what do you want to do? He said, I know somebody at Channel 5. What do you want to do? Because he knew I wanted to work at Channel 5. I said, I don't care. I just want to work in television. I want to work at Channel 5. He reached out to the person he knew, and they said, we think we're going to have an opening in a couple of weeks, right as she's getting ready to graduate. So my advisor said, okay, he's sending me an application. You fill it out and you bring it back to me. Don't you try to mail it in. You let me mail it back. And that's what I did. And they offered me a camera operator's position. I had been home all of a week. I was going to go in the Air Force if I didn't get a job in television. That's what we tend to do in the Coleman family. I was going to go into the Air Force, but I got this call from Channel 5 saying we have a camera operator's position. And they called him, at that time, a cameraman. I'm like, I'm not a man. Okay.
Right. That's why I say it's a camera woman.
I changed that verbiage real quick when I got there. But we have a cameraman position. Would you come and interview for it? And I did, and I got the job. No experience.
Whoa.
They were like, can you start in another week? And that's what I did.
Wow.
So I got my foot in the door. And I tell that to a lot of young people. Sometimes we got to do what we got to do to get our foot in the door. And then once we pushed our foot into this door, we can go on through and show them what we have. We can show them that we're dependable. We can show them that we're hardworking, that we want to continue to learn and we want to continue to grow, and we want to grow with the company. So that was my goal, working every day going in there, was just to do the best I could. I was an awful camera person at first. Because the cameras we had at Western, because, in school when you're studying broadcasting, you do every job from director to, anchor to everything. Well, our cameras were completely different. It was old school. We had a crank. Well, I get to Channel 5 and they've got this little finger movement.
You were like, this is fancy. What do I do with this?
Fancy. I don't know how to do this thing. So I trained. They trained me, and I trained for about a month with an older camera person who was kind of standing right next to me, and to be there, if I had questions or needed anything. So it took me a minute to gain their respect, because I was this 22-year-old, I'm not quite 22, but about to turn 22-year-old, right out of college. And the majority of them did not have a college education. And they would say, you don't need a degree to be a cameraman. And so I would say, I know, but I have one.
Right.
And they would say, they didn't teach you that at Western, because they would do all these fancy pans and zooms and trucks and all these moves, and I didn't know how to do them very well. And they would say, they don't teach you that at Western, do they? I would get all kinds of little snide remarks.
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned that some of these people were older.
Yes.
They didn't have the degree you had. Also, during research, you were, like you said, you were 21 years old. You were a woman. And not only a woman, but an African-American woman.
Yes. So that's the type of thing that they were looking at. They had never had a woman work in production with them before like that. And I think they felt like I was a so-called token, that I had only gotten the position because I was an African-American female. And I knew that's how they felt and what they were whispering behind my back. So I knew I had to prove myself to them.
So would they say these things in front of you?
Yes.
Were they deliberately rude to you?
Yes, they were. And I think they were not expecting them to hire anyone like me, because there was like 12 or 13 of them. Now, there were 4 African Americans who just took me under their wings. Those guys became like my brothers.
Yeah.
And they treated me really, really special. But the others just kind of made me feel like I was not worthy and that I was not supposed to be there. So, you know what, Stephen? I would practice, and I would, on my lunch break, I would just go and just practice on the camera and just try to get as good as I could be. And I would just practice, and I would practice. And then after a while, I earned their respect. I started doing the exact same things they were doing. And I was more conscientious. The anchors, I would not let them go on the air with their tie crooked, with their hair sticking straight up, I was so conscientious to make sure that they looked good, they had everything they needed, and so they depended on me more so than anybody. And then all these other guys, you know what? Eventually they became like such like father figures for me. I had to earn it, though. I didn't walk in and just receive a warm welcome from them. And 21 years old with no experience, and they're like, I've been doing this 15 years.
As old as you were at that time.
Right. I've been doing this all my life, and here she comes, with no experience. And they had worked at other places and had been, doing the job for a while. But I earned their respect, and they became like, all of them became like father figures to me and looked out for me and took great care of me. But the first couple of years, it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. I just really, truly didn't feel like I was wanted there. At least by those guys.
Right. And what's so awesome about that is you took that and you made something with that. Because I have to state this, you have been with News Channel 5 for over 40 years.
Yes.
You served behind the camera as a cameraman, camerawoman. And then that led you to being a producer, right?
Yes. And let me tell you, I have had no experience with any of the jobs I've been given. I was a camera operator for 10 years, working that crazy 1:45 to 10:45. So y'all, I paid my dues. I worked nights for 10 years.
People have no idea about the hours, right?
Right. Going into my second decade, I knew, even when I was a camera person, a camera operator, they would give me little projects on the side because I'm like, I really like to write. Is there anything I could do to write? They let me work on telethons, and News Channel 5 used to do job fairs and all kinds of specials. And they would let me write. I did Black History salutes that I won Emmy nominations for because they wanted to do something for Black History Month. And I was like, I can do it. And they let me have the time to go to the Tennessee State Library and shoot video and pictures of these African Americans who had made great contributions to Nashville history. And I did Black History Salutes. And so they allowed me to write. So I used to apply every time someone left Talk of the Town as a producer. I would apply. And they'd say, well, you just don't have enough experience. Well, when News Channel 5 was bought by a new company, there was someone once again who saw something in me and believed in me and went to them and said, there is a young lady here who I think needs an opportunity. She wants to produce. How is she going to get experience producing if we don't give it to her?
Right.
They created a position for me as an associate producer in Talk of the Town. And they said, if you do a good job, we'll promote you to full-time producer. It was basically a training ground for me to learn what the other producers did and to kind of give me a trial run to see how good I was as a writer. So they created that position for me. And you know what? They haven't had one since. That was the last associate producers. But when I was done, that was it for the associate producers. And now you're either a producer or you're nothing. And so that's how I got into the producing end of it. And did that for 10 years.
Yes. And then after that, this is what led you to being the lifestyle talk show legend that you are with News Channel 5, Talk of the Town. Okay?
Yes.
In 2003, was it 2003?
I think it was 2003, yeah.
That's when you became an on-air personality serving as a reporter.
Exactly. My career was a full circle moment because, I eventually had wanted to be in front of the camera as a reporter, but I didn't want to do hard news. Well, Talk of the Town, as you know, is a lifestyle magazine type of show that's a feature-y type of show. So I had never really considered doing anything on air, but at our 20-year service awards event, where I was going to be presented with my 20-year service award, I was out of town on vacation in the Bahamas. But before I left, the general manager at the station said, Tuwanda, would you please put something on videotape? Because at that time, even then, I was one of the older people who had been there and people had seen all that I was doing, just little special projects on the side and always being positive and working with interns. So I said, sure, I'll put something on tape. And I did. I put just a little quick something. I didn't even know what to say. They set me in front of a camera and I'm just like, hi, sorry, I'm couldn't be there. I'm probably on the beach sipping on a Mai Tai. I said something like that. And so they showed it at the service awards. And then when I came back from vacation, the general manager asked would I please come to her office, which made me so nervous. She called, Tuwanda, would you have me please come to the office? I was like, What's going on?
I was just on vacation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I go to her office and she said, you need to be on air. I said, what? She said, you need to be in front of the camera. Would you consider being a feature reporter for Talk of the Town? And that's exactly how that all transpired. Once again, no experience. Did a little bit of it in college, which had been, 20 years prior, but no experience whatsoever as a reporter on a live television show. And so every 10 years, my career changed the first 3 decades of my life. And I was given opportunities in jobs that I did not have experience for. And I tell people that I talk to, it didn't really have anything to do with the fact that I didn't have any experience. They knew I didn't. They knew I was dependable. They saw that I was always excited and up for a challenge of whatever they gave me to do. And they felt like I would rise to the occasion, being given that opportunity in a job that they knew I had no experience. And this is a live TV shows that I'm working on, that they're trusting and depending that this inexperienced person is not going to totally mess things up. And so I am just so indebted and forever grateful to those people at News Channel 5 and the opportunities that I have been given. And that is one of the reasons why I felt so loyal to that station that I'm now there 40 years. It's been a different journey every decade. I've been learning the whole time I've been there. And then these last 20 or so years of my life, I've just been perfecting, trying to become the best television reporter, journalist that I could be based on the fact that I had no experience, because by the time I was put on the air, things had changed so much from what I learned in college.
Absolutely.
So I just had to kind of find my own way. And people were so kind, and then people knew I was new. They knew I was a novice reporter, but they were kind when I would go out in public and say, "You're doing a good job. You're getting better and better." And that made me feel better and gave me the courage and the encouragement to continue to try to do my best.
Absolutely.
Here I am today, 40 years later.
And, I think it's great because you have illustrated that, again, nothing was handed to you. Opportunities presented itself, but you stepped right on in and you made it what it needed to be for you. And I just respect that. To me, that's legendary.
Thank you so much.
And when I think of legends, I think of course, Melrose.
Yes. She's a legend.
And then Vicki Yates is retiring.
Yes.
And she was at News Channel 5 a long time as well.
Exactly. 33 years.
33, but 48 years in overall, right?
Overall. Because Channel 5 was like her third or fourth station.
And you, 40 years.
Yes.
So I really commend that. And I see that and I respect that.
Thank you.
I have to ask you this. What is the biggest thing you've learned about yourself over the 40 years?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think to believe in myself more. Others have believed in me more than I believed in myself. And I don't know if it just comes from the self-esteem issue of like, I'm not worthy. It's like, am I good enough to do this? These people are believing in me and giving me the opportunity. And I've had so much self-doubt. And all along, though, if these people saw something in me, I'm just surprised that I didn't see it in myself.
Wow. Wow.
What is it they're seeing that I'm not seeing?
Yeah.
I look at myself every day in the mirror. This is my life, but they're obviously seeing something that I'm not seeing. So it's about, I guess, me doing a lot of soul searching.
Absolutely.
Like, what are my strengths? What is it that people like so much about me? What is it that they think that I'm doing so good? What is it that I can work on? What could I be better at? And I used to critique myself all the time because I felt like that's the best way you're going to get better. I would listen to myself because, sometimes we cringe. Most people don't like the way they sound,
Yeah.
And then I would listen to myself and say, you got a Southern accent. And that's just something that doesn't go over well on television. But what's changed, and you're seeing this today, how media is changing. People want you to be yourself. We've learned that viewers like people who are themselves. They want people to be conversational. Yes, I have a Southern accent, but that's okay. I'm from the South.
Right. It's more inclusive nowadays.
It's more inclusive now. You're absolutely right. And I think that's a great thing. I really, really do. Because for years, journalists thought, I got to lose that accent. If I was perhaps in New York, maybe so. But I'm in the South.
Right.
I'm from the South. I talk like a lot of people that watch us. And so that's relatable. And that's what people tend to like about me. And that's what I hear. People say, "Oh gosh, you sound so soothing. I love to listen to you talk. I can be on the other grocery aisle and I know it's you." So I found that I do have a distinctive sound, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
To have and just to sort of be who you are. Don't try to pattern yourself after other people. And I remember hearing Oprah said, she would watch Barbara Walters, and she would try to be like a Barbara Walters. I never tried to necessarily be like other people, but I just wanted to sort of be a better version of me.
And I think it's so cool that realization of looking back over these years, you've been able to see that, wow, okay, these people see this in me. I haven't been able to see this in myself. So let me sit still and really look at myself because it must be something there. Yeah. I'm hearing the same thing from different people. Why can't I match that? And I think, honestly, do you feel like that was the moment that really helped propel you to step out there even more and be an even better version of yourself? Yes. Because you knew at that moment who you were.
When I start accepting, this is who you are. You can't be Vicki. You can't be Oprah. You have to be who you are, and you have to deal with your strengths. If your strengths aren't necessarily talking, in a sound that's going to be nondescript, then you have to work with what you have. Don't try to be anything other than yourself. Until I learned, all my friends are so thin, and on TV can do something with how you see yourself, because it can tend to add extra pounds, and you're like looking at yourself.
I be looking sometimes like, why do I look like that?
It adds 10 pounds. That is so true. And then you're like, gosh, I'm not as thin as my friends. You can be hard on yourself until you stop and say, but this is who you are. Obviously, people are watching because they like who you are. Don't try to be who they are because people like them for them. So it truly is something that I tell young people today. Who you are right now, just try to be the best version of you. Don't try to be anybody else but the best version of you. And where you see there are things you can improve upon, you do that.
Yeah.
Definitely do that. And I would listen to videotapes and read newspapers aloud just so I could hear myself read and hear how I sounded and enunciated words and things like that. Just to try to be better and feel more confident, because the more confident you feel, the better you are. The better you do your job, the more confident you feel in how you're looking, how you're telling a story, all those types of things. That's when the confidence builds.
Absolutely.
And until then, when you're feeling like I just don't look good on there, I don't sound good, you're not going to be confident. You're not going to be a confident enough journalist to get out there and just be who you are.
So now we're going to make a transition. You've proven yourself. You didn't have anything to prove, really. You've already proven yourself 40 years with Talk of the Town, but you didn't even have to do that, right?
Right.
However, you, outside of being a television host, you are a wife.
Yes. I am a wife of 11 years. It took me a long time to find someone. I was an older bride. I was married at age 51. And my husband and I, we've been married 11 years now. And it's the best thing that I waited, because I have dated a lot of guys where it's been so one-sided.
How so?
How so? In that I was the one that was doing all the compromising and the one that was being
Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. Wait, you
Yes.
Wait, not to sound like to toot your own horn, but hello, you're the one on TV.
Well,
come on now.
I know, but I was somehow, though, never good enough for them in some respect that, I guess they always felt like they could do better. I don't know.
Really?
But whatever the reasoning being, being cheated on, being just like, ghosted, or just all of these things that a lot of women experience. So I was not going to settle, though. I never, once a relationship was over, it was over.
Yeah.
I was going back, even though theirs maybe didn't work out. I'm so sorry. There's no coming back here. So I waited. And I don't know if you ever heard how I met my husband.
No. How have you met your husband?
I met my husband when he pulled me over for speeding. Because my husband... Yes, my husband's a police officer. And so, yes, that's how I met my husband.
Yeah.
I was on my way to the gym one morning, and he pulled me over for speeding. And I thought, who is pulling people over at 5 a.m? But long story short, he was very nice to me. He was stern but nice, and he gave me a warning. And I thought, oh, my God, this is the most handsome police officer I've ever seen. And so I go to work, and I tell a coworker, and she's like, well, if you see him again, get his car number. And I said, they have car numbers? She said, they have car numbers. 2 weeks later, he was in that same spot trying to catch speeders, and I got his car number. And where I feel like everything happens for a reason in this, that I take it to my coworker whose husband's also a police officer.
Yeah.
And said, do you know who drives? Find out if your husband can find out who drives his car number. She comes back the next day. Here's his number. Here's his name. Her husband and my husband were in the police academy together.
Got you. Yeah.
They had sat one behind each other. They in the same class. My husband was the oldest in the class because he had retired from the Army at Fort Campbell. And so here we are like, what? Of all the officers in the world, I worked with the one officer who probably knew him best, worked in the same precinct with him, was in the academy with him, and was telling me he's really a nice guy and all this.
Yeah.
And so I felt like it was meant to be. I waited long enough. I was patient. I always wanted children. He had a daughter. He was divorced, had a daughter. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm too old to bear children, but I'm going to have a child. It has been like a godsend for me. I'm so happy. It's the best time of my life right now.
I can tell. To know you, to know you,
yes.
You always have a glow.
Thank you.
Every time I see you.
Thank you.
Every time. But that glow also transcends on television. But it's like in person, it's just, I just feel it.
Thank you.
I have to ask you, because people have no idea what you go through behind camera, right?
No, they don't.
So how do you balance that, what's on camera, and then life, if that makes sense? Because to hear you go through all of that, I never would have had a clue.
I know. Because I think people think because we work in front of the camera, they think we make a lot of money, which we don't. Some of the anchors do, but some of us don't. They think we're just rolling in the dough. We're so happy because we're in front of TV and people know us everywhere we go, and life is... But we have the exact same problems as everybody else. I wanted a relationship. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have children. So, we have to separate the person from their job.
Absolutely.
And yes, I'm happy in my job, but there was that part of my life that I was unhappy in.
Yeah.
And I had been in a lot of dead-end relationships where I was led on. I dated one guy 4 years, another guy 6 years. I had these long-term relationships that just where I was led on. Thinking, oh, eventually this person's going to ask me to marry them. Well, they didn't. And they never intended, I don't think, to ask me.
So I have to ask you this. This is for every woman or every person. What are some of the signs to look for?
Yeah.
And specifically for those who are business women like yourself.
I love that question. I talked to an expert one year. He said, you need to find someone who's going to love you more than they love themselves. And I thought, that's a good point, because there are a lot of guys who won't put you first, won't put your feelings first, won't put your goals first, but will put theirs first. And, if you come along for the ride, that's great. I found someone who's always put me first and who loved me harder and more than I loved them in the beginning. Because I thought, this is too good to be true. This guy has got to be, not this perfect. I found someone, and I tell other women that find someone who's going to love you just as much as they love themselves. Because if you find someone who's going to love you and respect you, they won't want to hurt you. They won't want to do anything to hurt you or disrespect you. Whereas I've been in many relationships where guys have totally disrespected me, done things that you don't do to people you love. So, and I guess it took me being an older woman to realize these are the things you do not accept from a man. I told him going into this relationship, look, I have enough friends. If you're not serious about settling down and getting married, we don't have anything to talk about from this point forward. I'm not looking for another friend. I'm tired of guys saying, oh, I'm not ready to settle down, but can we be friends?
Yeah.
No.
And I'm not just one of those you call up late at night kind of thing.
No.
Yeah.
No. I am definitely not one that you call late at night.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right.
No. This is someone that you're going to want to treat you like a lady. My husband, the first time I met him, we met out. We had lunch together. The third time, I think I invited him to come pick me up to take me to the movie. And he had a truck that was hard for me. I'm short, 5'3.5". It was hard for me to get up in that truck. The next date, he had added running boards to the truck.
Yeah.
I was like, he thinks I'm going to be around for a while. That was a true sign to me, like, oh,
that was a green flag.
That was like, this guy is truly thinking he's going to keep me around a while. And I liked that after a while. At first I was like, that was a little presumptuous. But then it was like, what a thoughtful thing. It turned into, wow, that's a very thoughtful thing to add something to your truck that I could step up on to get into your truck.
Yeah.
And so he kept showing me in ways that I had never experienced before that I really like you. I'm hoping to spend, be with you for a while. And that's what I saw, and I'd never seen that in other guys before. I don't know if any of the guys I dated before would ever spend money to add something to their vehicles to make it more convenient for me. And so he continues to this day to just treat me like I'm the queen of the house. And gosh, when you find somebody that does that for you, you go into work happy. You leave work happy thinking, I'm going home to my fabulous husband.
Absolutely.
It just makes life so much better. Love shouldn't hurt. It should not hurt, and it should not be hard. Relationships should not be hard. We do have our disagreements, but
we all do, right?
We all do. But the interesting thing is we love each other no matter what we know we're arguing about. It's just a spat. The next day we're going to come back and be fine.
So looking back now, it happened later in life.
Yeah.
But I imagine you're more grateful for it.
Oh.
Because going back to you stating earlier, that self-confidence sounds like was not there when you were younger.
Yeah, and I think the relationships didn't help.
And it didn't help, right? It made it even worse.
It did.
It was like, well, what's wrong with me? And it had nothing to do with you.
No.
But it had everything to do with how you saw yourself.
That is so true.
Now, waiting to 50 to get married, right?
Yes.
Looking back now at your career, everything, and in conclusion, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would tell my younger self, everything you're going through right now, don't do things that will come back to hamper you and your growth. I would tell myself, be happy with where you are, but continue to grow to be the best you can be. And don't depend on other people for your happiness. Because what I've learned is when you do that, you're going to be disappointed quite often.
Yeah.
You have to depend on you for your happiness. And so that the times when my self-esteem was low, it was because I think I was just not happy with myself, with self-doubt. And don't let self-doubt, Tuwanda, get the best of you, because you're going to make a difference in some people's lives. So just be the best you that you can be right now. Continue to grow so that the people who see you will see someone who's happy, who is giving, who is loving and supporting of others just as much as they are of themselves. You can't help others and make others happy if you can't be happy yourself.
With yourself. Absolutely.
So that's what I would tell myself. You have to love yourself so that, you can love others. And because if you don't love yourself, I don't know how you expect, others can love you too. You don't love yourself.
Right. What would people be surprised to know about Tuwanda Coleman Shaw? Not Tuwanda Coleman, but Tuwanda Coleman Shaw.
That's a good one. I love using my married name. I didn't change it for television, but I'm Ms. Shaw all day long, Coleman Shaw. What people may not know is I still tend to be a little shy. And people find that hard to believe. But I do, when I go in front of the camera, and this is what I hear from people like Tina Turner recently said it, and Beyonce, you almost have to become a persona of yourself. Because when you're shaking on the inside, okay, I got to be this Tuwanda that's confident. I got to be this Tuwanda that's out here showing this side of me that is the outgoing person. But I am a homebody. I like to go home and just cuddle up in my pajamas on the couch next to my husband and eat popcorn.
Yes.
I'm so boring. And I don't live like this fabulous life as a TV person. I am just a homebody.
Yeah.
And I thank God I married a guy who's also somewhat of a homebody, but he does get me out of my shell sometimes and say, let's go do this or let's go do that. So people might be surprised to know that. I just enjoy reading a good book, and I love crossword puzzles. I love crunching much. and I love crossword puzzles. And you give me a pencil and a book, a crossword puzzle book, and some Crunching Munch, and I am happy all day long just to sit at home and do nothing. So that's kind of one of the things I'm looking for in retirement. Not so much as sitting on the couch.
Okay, so you mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
The R word.
Yes.
Between you, Meryl, and Vicky Yates.
Yes.
I don't appreciate y'all coming up in here with this R word. I don't appreciate it. I really don't. I've watched y'all since childhood.
I know.
And it's just weird. Like,
yes. But we're at that age. You know, we have had our careers. We've done everything we set out to do. Meryl did, Vicky has, and I have. I think we have pretty much gone as far as we can in our careers. And it's time now for something new, a new challenge, or a time, not so much as a challenge, but we do want to continue to learn. And we want to continue to learn new things, new and different things. I've only had one job at one place. So it would be kind of nice to see what it's like perhaps to work at a place 2 or 3 days a week. I don't want to work full time anywhere, and I do want to volunteer. I definitely am signing up for Book 'em to read to the kids in school, and I want to volunteer at Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt and just spend time helping others, which is something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
I feel like so much has been given to me that I have to give back. You know, to whom much is given, much is expected.
That's the truth.
And so Meryl, Vicky, and myself, we all love helping others. And so that's one of the things I'm so looking forward to. And I'll have time to do it. You know, I will have time. Like when I leave here, I'll probably go work on some things from the show. But once I'm retired, I can have lunch with the ladies, as we're calling it, our lunch with ladies. Lunch with retired ladies. Right now, I'm not the retired one, but everybody else is. And have lunch. They sat one time out on the patio at Uncle Julio's for like 5 hours after lunch. Didn't have to be anywhere.
That's a blessing.
I had to go back to work. But they stayed there and they just chatted, and each person went around and each person caught up with what was going on.
And just lived in the moment.
Just lived in the moment, exactly.
And that's what you're looking forward to.
I don't have to be anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
It's going to feel good. And to sleep in, I work out. I get up at 4:45 every morning in my little home gym by 5. I'm going to not even think about an alarm clock. I am not even going to think about being anywhere. And so everybody's telling me when I do retire that the thing is, don't plan anything as far as career moves, anything volunteering until you've spent about 6 months to a year.
Just chilling out.
Just chilling.
And finding yourself again.
And finding yourself. What do I want now that I have all this free time to do with anything I want? What do I really feel like my passion is, and what do I want to do? It's not about making money. It's not about, and I don't work for the money, believe me. You have to kind of love what you do to be somewhere for 40-something years.
That's true.
So I love what I do, and it's going to feel different. I'm going to miss the people so much. But at the same time, it's going to be sort of nice finding me and having time once again to rediscover who I am as this retired person versus when I was trying to figure out who I was as a high school or college student and then someone working in the workplace. It's coming.
I don't like that you're saying that.
Well, I know.
But I respect that.
Thank you.
One last question I have to ask.
Okay.
You look amazing. Can I state your age?
Yes.
62?
No. 63.
63.
I'll be 64 in July.
64.
Yeah.
What is your regimen? Because you look amazing.
Well, thank you for saying that. I
64
do
is not
appreciate
old.
it.
That's
but,
not
but
old.
It is a retirement age, as you know. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I do work out at least 4 days a week in the gym. I lift weights. I also walk as much as I can. I'm a big walker. I've always walked. Since I was in my late 20s, I was a walker. Try to get in 2 to 3 miles a day. On the weekends, my husband and I take longer walks. So I walk. But then I also believe in taking great care of your skin. Some of it is genetic because my mom had beautiful skin her whole life.
Yes.
Her whole life. And so everybody's like, oh my God. I'm like, I didn't do this. I think I have my mother's genetics and genes to thank for this. But I do believe in taking care of my skin. So I try to use the best skincare products that I can afford.
Right.
I never sleep in makeup. I don't wear makeup on the weekends. Very little if I do. So that's kind of, I think, that has kept me somewhat youthful over the years. It's just great skincare routine and just trying to do some exercise.
And I got to say this, your outlook on life. I know a lot of people who, I'll say 50 plus, who have given up.
Yeah.
I can tell for you that's not in you to give up.
Not an option.
It's like this latter half of your life is where it's starting. That's where you are like really flourishing.
Yes.
And I just have to commend you for that.
Thank you. You've hit the nail. I didn't really think about that, but this second half of my life, I'm just going to continue to work on being the better me. You know, Vicky and I are planning on going to gym classes together, taking swim lessons together. We want to take art classes. It's going to continue to be all my life about learning and self-improvement. Because I think the best me can only help those around me and who I love become the best versions of themselves. I want to be a great role model for people who look up to me, even when I'm long gone from television. You know, if I meet someone in the grocery store or on the street, I don't want them to say, "Have you seen that Tuwanda Coleman lately?"
Right.
They don't have to worry about that with me, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, Tuwanda, thank you for coming. Like, I hate that you can't stay longer.
I know. This is so much fun. I don't think I've ever talked about myself quite this much with anyone other than you. So this has truly been a pleasure. And it's really kind of helped me think through my life.
Yeah.
I've not really done that before in talking about myself. So thank you.
And, you know, I have to say this, too, in closing as well. I wanted to talk to you, too, because I feel like you don't get the recognition you deserve. I'm trying not to cry.
Me too.
When I read just your story and your journey, it almost felt like I could relate to it. And it almost felt like you were working hard. And it seemed like, you know, it's like people saw you, but they didn't see you.
Mm-hmm.
And like I mentioned to you earlier before, I remember starting out at 18 in this field.
Yeah.
And I've met so many kind people and very few rude people. But real people, I can count them on one hand. That supersedes kindness and fakeness. I'm talking about real people. And I have to acknowledge that. And that's what you are. So this episode, I just want to give you your flowers.
Thank you.
I really do.
Nobody's ever said that about me. I've lived so much in the shadow of my superstar friends, working behind the scenes, making sure everything worked for the people who are in front of the camera.
Right.
Often. Writing all my own stories, doing all my own things. Sometimes people think that it's written for me, but no, I write that myself. And I have felt sometimes like just because I'm not an anchor and I'm not on the air every day, that people don't see me as a hardworking producer who the people that you do see, I'm writing what they're saying and I'm writing the questions that they're asking. And I'm the person that's behind the scenes making it all happen. And granted, I don't do it for the recognition,
right?
But thank you for recognizing that what I have done all these 40 years has helped make people who watch the shows that I do continue to watch.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, the producers have a big job. And as an out in the field doing my job, I don't have anything that's edited for me. I say everything you see out on location just comes from me. I don't write that. Nobody writes that for me. And it's not always easy. But I don't think people always see that in me. And I think a lot of the guys that I've dated never saw the depth that lies here. Because I am somewhat quiet about it. I never brag about it. I don't do my job for the brag or the celebratory pat on the backs. I don't do it for that. But you're the first person that's known that what I do does matter. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. I didn't mean to get deep and cry. Okay. So in closing, you can find Tuwanda Coleman at 11 a.m. Monday through Friday.
Right.
News Channel 5. on Talk of the Town.
Right.
Tuwanda, do you have anything else you would like to say here at In the Zone?
I'm so proud of you is what I want to say. The first time I met you, I felt like you had something special. I always wished that I could have something for you at News Channel 5 because I really feel like if a door is open for you, you're going to kick it down and go in and do just what I do. I see so much of me in you. So I want to say that, and I want to thank you for having me as your guest today. And for anybody that's watching, thank you for watching little old me.
No, we're not going to say that.
Okay.
It ain't little old me.
Well, thank you. Thank you for watching me.
40 years.
40
not,
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, 40 years. Thank you so much for having me. The sky's the limit for you. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for you in 40 years.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. For those of you tuning in today, thank you for watching. And until next time.